Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, this is a trip. It was about 2 hours worth of footage up the back of a local North Carolina creek. The water's about 50 degrees. It's January, and we're going to see a lot of fish today. Lots of mullet, loads and loads of gar, a good number of speckled trout, and quite a few redfish, too. I'm going to sort of narrate as we go along. This is all mullet, if you can't tell. These are big mullet, like probably 11 to anywhere from 11 to 14 inches. All right, so that was actually a redfish strike we just saw there. We'll actually see several times today. We'll see redfish schooling with these big hardhead mullet. I thought it was pretty interesting. There's a black drum. That's more mullet. Redfish. So there's a swim bait down there. I know you can't see it in the frame all the time, but there's a little white swim bait down there. It's kind of there's a black drum and a red coming up to check out the swim bait now. But it's just to kind of draw those fish in, so they'll get up in the frame. If you notice, these fish can see that they can see that lure from a lot further away than we can see them, because they always come out of they just come out of nowhere, and you suddenly see them in the frame, but they're clearly coming after that swim bait. So here's a cool thing. When you get really close to the bottom here, the water changes. It's like there's a layer at the bottom that's just crystal clear down there. More redfish. I don't even know why they followed a giant clump of snodgrass, but redfish schooling with mullet. More reds. So there's no hook on the swim bait. Even if they eat it, they're not gonna get hooked. I'm not out there trying to catch the fish. I'm just seeing what's down there really. Blue crab. We saw several blue crabs. I didn't put them all in the video because they're not very interesting. They just sit there, but there are several blue crabs at the back of the creek. I actually saw a shrimp yesterday. It was really surprising. Man, he was booking too. It did not look like a safe place for a shrimp to be hanging out. This is what most of the footage looks like. It's really boring to comb through this stuff to cut out just the highlights, but it's really difficult to keep the depth level right so that you can see the fish. And then a lot of the creek just is completely devoid of life entirely. There's huge portions of the creek that have absolutely nothing in it, and then there's small pockets that really concentrate probably 98% of the life in the whole creek. Oh, dinosaur! He wants the camera. He doesn't want the he doesn't want the swim bait. He's trying to eat the camera. They're really, really curious fish, but it looks like they're smart, as far as I can tell. The more I see these guys, like see him bump the camera like that, like he's trying to see if it'll try to run away. And he's gonna check out the snodgrass wad and come back for the camera again. All right, so you see this drop here. This is where the trout are hanging out at, off this ledge. There's a trout there. More trout. These guys were not interested in the wad of snodgrass. More trout. You can see him passing. I jerked it at a bad time there, but That was a trout passing just a second ago. You look for the blacktails. That's how you can tell them apart from the mullet. Mullet just have kind of like a clear or a white tail. No, blacktails are the trout. More gar. We got more mullet here. These are smaller mullet than most of them that we see today. These are probably 8-10 inch mullet. There's that swim bait I was talking about. So this is actually a trout right here in the bottom left-hand corner of the frame. So now we've seen all kinds of fish schooling with these mullet. I don't know what that was. That little thing that just went past there, it looks like a micro gar or a, I don't know if it's a cuda, like a baby cuda. If anybody knows what that thing is, I'm very interested to know. So this is just like a patch of interesting bottom. There's a lot of cool structure stuff I didn't add in. You'll see these really sheer drops, and this area is usually really good for trout. You see those sheer drops, it'll usually hold trout. There was no trout there today though. This is a green bass, a largemouth, pretty nice one, probably 2 pounds. And he really wanted to go for this swim bait, man. He followed it for a long time until the camera started kicking up a bunch of mud, and then he sort of loses interest. I say a nice one, you know, obviously there's a lot nicer bass than that. But back in this area, at 2 pounders on the upside of the ones I've caught. Mullet. These mullet were absolutely everywhere. But the whole 2 hours of video, I barely covered 200 yards of the creek. I'm moving really slow, trying to get as much fish in the frame as possible. So I didn't cover a lot, but this area of the creek tends to have the most life this time of year anyway. There's more gar. We showed a lot of aggressive interest from these guys, but they never actually hit. Black drum. Those guys weren't schooled today. It was kind of weird. You'd expect to see black drum in schools, but we only saw them individual fish here and there, scattered around. They weren't all in the same area either. We got another gar following. None of them ever hit though. They're really cautious fish for whatever reason. It seems like they might be the smartest fish down there. More gar. This is really a nest of them. I actually hooked a trout maybe 50 feet from here. It's one of the only trout I hooked all day. The trout seemed to be really low to the bottom and moving pretty fast every time I saw him. The trout were never not on the move, actually. I am yet to get a trout on video that wasn't moving at least a little. There was one creek that I went up last year where they were kind of just milling around in one area, and it looked like they were really actively feeding when they were doing that. But all the trout I've seen this year have always been on the move, like they were headed somewhere far away. The redfish are usually moving too, and they're not stuck to the bottom like I always thought they were as much. A lot of times the redfish are up in the water column swimming around, just like a trout would be. Man, these things look wicked, don't they? So I've got some more GoPro footage, but it was really clunky. The camera was just sort of hanging down there off the kayak, and the kayak definitely spooks the fish even when they're down deep. So I'm not going to put any of that footage up. But I did make a new rig that's going to be stationary. It's a GoPro that can just sit for 9 hours. And we're going to try to get tide transitions, condition changes, storms, a lot of things that I want to do in the future here. So here's more mullet. But and it's actually got lures hanging off of it to try and attract fish in to get some attention. What is that? What is that fish? Who can tell me what that fish is? Because I have no idea. I'm very interested to know. I don't know if the trout might be eating that thing or what it is. It looks like some kind of like a brim, but it's a really, really dark color. And I've never seen one before. Today was the first I've seen. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you next time.